All right, welcome to Not So Sweet Dreams. Hopefully, you will have sweet dreams after this. We are talking about gut health and sleep today, and I have Marcy Kirshenbaum joining me. Say hi, Marcy.
Hello, everyone.
Um, so, let me give you a quick background on Marcy. She is a licensed dietitian nutritionist in the state of Illinois. So, it means you can look up and make sure she's legit. You'll find her license there. And she's the founder of Enhanced Nutrition. So, she works with people on an individualized nutrition program based on their specific situation, any health conditions they have, what their goals are, and she works with them on, are there any foods that they need to add to their diet, take out of their diet, maybe just limit the amount of, how they should prepare their food, things like that. She's really good at being realistic too and seeing the person in front of her and knowing not everyone can attack things the same way. She's worked with people with all different types of health conditions. So she has experience with people with cancer, autoimmune disease, diabetes, various GI disorders, and others that I didn't mention. But she's a great resource, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Amy.
So, everyone knows, they've had some disrupted sleep because they ate something that was a really bad choice, like right before bed. Or maybe I should say everyone over 30 or 35 knows that at some point in their life. Maybe when you're 20, you can eat anything and have it not bother you. But besides that, can food really, or can my gut health really impact my sleep?
Absolutely. And we're so and I have a lot of different things I can explain today. I'm going to try to make it as simple as possible because we have to look at ourselves as a very complex machine. Not doing one thing or fixing one thing doesn't only impact one area. Everything's interrelated. So the two major things that we're really seeing with sleep are going to be things like what's going on with our blood sugar, and of course then looking at what's our microbial balance, like our gut bugs, what's going on in there, and because that both of those will really impact our health and well-being. So we think about that most of our neurotransmitters, and we think about neurotransmitters being in the brain. We're going to get a little bit more, I'll get into that when we talk about our gut bugs, but they require having really stable blood sugar because our body is always trying to find that homeostasis, that happy place. We don't want to have our blood sugar too high. We don't want to have it too low because our body's going to try to throw us back into balance, and it's going to do whatever it takes to get us there. So if our blood sugar is too high, we can all think about, oh yeah, well, you know what, having too much sugar, we're going to stay up. It's going to get us, when we're tired during the day, we think of, let's eat something carby and sweet because we feel awake. But also, if our blood sugar drops too low, it can impact our sleep because our body needs to find that balance. So there's a couple things I always like to ask my clients to kind of get an idea. Is blood sugar even an issue? So there's about 5 different things I often ask them. That may be, am I waking up consistently around 2 or 3 in the morning? Am I waking up maybe to go to the bathroom, but then I realize I'm hungry? Do I feel hangry, the hunger and anger when I wake up in the morning? Do I find myself maybe wanting a midnight snack? And do I sometimes wake up in the middle of the night or even in the morning and I feel dizzy when I get out of bed? Well, if someone answers yes to even one of those, it could be that you have an unstable blood sugar level. So that's something that we want to always address. Well, and also, if our blood sugar declines, it impacts how our hormones, especially looking at cortisol and adrenaline. We know cortisol is our fight or flight. If our cortisol level goes up, most likely we're going to wake up because that's what our body does in the mornings. But so what we want to do is keep our blood sugar balanced. And of course, making good food choices is going to be really important. And there's little tricks I do with people. Sometimes I'll actually, even though I don't promote eating before bed, sometimes I'll tell people maybe have a little spoonful of a nut or seed butter, unsweetened, of course, or a few nuts if you're fine with all of that, and see if that helps you sleep through the night. It actually can sometimes stabilize your blood sugar. So looking for those little things and kind of testing, we always are always trying to experiment with people to see where they may be. And then, of course, we want to look at getting to the gut. Our microbial balance, or the good bacteria and the bad bacteria, having that balance in our gut. What's going on? And if you're let's look at actually the gut bugs. What do they do for us? They help us digest our food. They help us make some of our vitamins that are really important to be able to make our neurotransmitters. They keep our immune system healthy. There's just so much going on in the gut that we think about. Often we say everything starts in the gut because there's a strong gut brain connection. So if we're not feeding our gut properly, our gut's out of balance, we don't have what we need to make our neurotransmitters. And you can read about like serotonin, which is our feel-good neurotransmitter. Actually, it varies in what you're reading, but somewhere between 50 to 80% of the serotonin is actually made in the gut. It's not being made in the brain. And so if you have a gut out of balance, you don't have your serotonin. Well, the feel-good serotonin is actually the precursor to melatonin. And
so what do I have to eat to build that serotonin then?
well, it's not just what you have to eat. We hear about like turkey, which has tryptophan in it, is actually the amino acid, which is the precursor to serotonin. But it's not just eating to what foods we eat, it's the balance of the gut. If your gut's out of balance because you've been eating too many processed foods, too much sugar, or foods that just are causing you inflammation because everything's personalized, and what you can eat, what I can eat can be totally different in order for us to feel good. So it's having a healthy gut and making sure that we are feeding our gut. It's like a garden, that it's the bugs that we want to feed, the good bugs, by eating. We look at prebiotics are the food for the probiotic, for the good bugs. And those can be really good, healthy fibers, a lot of vegetables. Asparagus is good. Flaxseed is good. We're looking for all sorts of really a lot of fiber and the healthy fibers, because most people, if you're eating a processed, simple carb diet, you're missing out on those fibers. And even fermented foods are really good to help feed the gut, to get it in a healthy way to make the serotonin.
Okay. So many questions. Yeah, in Chinese medicine, we talk a lot about, when I talk about sleep and how it works in Chinese medicine, I talk a lot about the diet and having a healthy digestive system, because your digestive system is responsible for building the qi in blood, and qi and blood need to be in balance. So I'm using the same words, just a few different terms. They have to be in balance to do that. And our digestive systems in general are not as developed when we're younger. And so we need a lot of sleep to create the qi in blood, and according to Chinese medicine. And then we need a little bit less sleep when we're younger. But as we get 35, our digestive system starts to decline, and it's harder to have a healthy digestive system, which then can impact our sleep.
Exactly. And that's what we see when people, as we get older, unfortunately, a lot of people feel like they get reflux and they get heartburn, and they're put on heartburn medications that are antacids to bring the acid level down. That could be complete opposite of what they need, because as we get older, more likely we're not producing enough stomach acid, but the symptoms of not enough stomach acid and too much stomach acid can be identical. And so people are then, they'll feel better in terms of heartburn, but it's actually preventing your gut then from the good bugs getting the foods they need. We don't make as much. Well, it's preventing us from absorbing maybe our B12, our zinc, all these nutrients that we need to have healthy sleep, to have a good balanced gut, to, all the metabolic processes that we have going on aren't working as well because we're deficient in some of our nutrients.
Yeah. And I forgot to mention for everyone on, feel free to put any questions you have in the comments and I'll make sure we get to those. And if you are watching this after we've gone live, put your questions in the comments anyway, and Marcy and I will go back to those and answer those as well. So I'd love to hear your questions.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much. And one of the things that's really important to understand also is I can talk in generalities to a group, but because we're so unique, how people respond and what their needs are, what their deficiencies are, everybody's a little bit different. And that makes us, I mean, genetically, I actually do some genetic testing with people to look at how, in terms of your lifestyle and your genetics, can we help things improve?
So you talked about some foods to avoid or minimize. You talked about sugar and processed foods. Anything else you would add there to try to limit in general?
Definitely. What we really want to do is, as much as possible, we want to eat real food. And because food is information, and we want to provide our body with information that it understands. It's like, good communication. It makes things work better. So if we're giving our body information that it says, oh, I recognize these fruits and vegetables. I know how to break them down. I know what to do with it. It makes a big difference. Getting healthy proteins versus getting things that are, I call them food-like substances, that really, they taste good. They might make us feel emotionally good for a little bit, but they're not feeding our body and really giving us the nutrition. So all of a sudden we're sorely lacking in a lot of minerals, even in one of the big minerals, magnesium, which is known to help people relax and be able to sleep. And so there's so much that we're missing by not eating our fruits and vegetables. One of the big things I look at is get a lot of variety in color, and you want to get a rainbow on your plate.
When my kids were little, we used to have a competition to see who could eat the most colors at each meal.
Okay.
And they would choose things just for that competition. And M&Ms didn't count. Like they had to be real foods to count as part of the colors.
Right. And one of the things with my clients, I often will have them do is just keep track of how many different colors of fruits and vegetables you're eating in a week or even in a day, because you want to get all those colors in, because they're providing us with different polyphenols, which helps our immune system.
I noticed when I started thinking about that more, I was surprised that I was mainly eating green vegetables, because growing up I didn't like green vegetables, and then I started liking leafy greens, and so I was eating a lot of them, but then I wasn't getting that full balance.
Exactly. And so many people, we're told greens, 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 and greens are fabulous for us, and the different leafy greens. But even if you're picking something like cabbage, and cabbage is really a really good vegetable for us in a lot of different ways. Good for the immune, it actually helps our immune system. It has good fiber, all sorts of great things, but you can pick purple cabbage. You don't have to pick green cabbage. And that's even fun to do. Look at carrots today, how many different colors they're coming in. They actually have different polyphenols in them. So definitely go for the purple carrots. You get your rainbow.
Yep. And
so
radishes for red. And
Exactly. And one of the other things in terms that you want to avoid the chemicals, the artificial flavors, the artificial colors. All those things are not giving that information to your body. The only thing your body looks at it is, this is foreign. I don't know what to do with it. And it actually causes your body to become more inflamed because it's putting foreign substances in. And the more foreign objects, things, chemicals that we're getting into our bodies, the harder your body has to work. The more inflammation, the less your gut is working as well, the less serotonin it's going to make, which means the less melatonin, and we won't sleep as well. And it becomes this kind of repetitive cycle that you get in, and you really want to do as much as you can to provide your body with the nourishment that it needs.
So, do you recommend that people take a probiotic, or is that one of those things that really is individual?
It is individual. Sometimes I used to years ago believe everybody should be on a probiotic. And I don't believe that anymore because some people take a probiotic and they actually can feel bloated and have all these GI distress. So that's information for me as a nutritionist that I can help say, okay, what asking a lot of questions to say there could be something else going on. In general, a basic probiotic can be helpful for people. Sometimes eating fermented foods can be a way to get that good probiotic balance. Again, sometimes those cause GI distress for some, but there's kimchi, there's sauerkraut, kombucha, which tastes great. Got to watch the sugars, and
Yeah.
it's going to throw your blood sugar off. And for some people, that's a big deal. And they don't realize how much impact that is having, because once we stabilize our sugars, if someone takes, they say, I really do need a little something at bedtime, I sleep better. Well, if you can stabilize your blood sugars during the day, you will eventually not need that little snack at night, because then there can be weight issues that for some people become a problem, and there's a whole nother cycle with poor sleep and weight gain and all of that.
Yeah. You mentioned kimchi and it made me hungry. Was something that was new for me is having kimchi on burgers.
Oh yeah,
And
good.
for people in the area, in Classic Bowl, there's a restaurant that serves kimchi on burgers, and I think you can get grass-fed burgers there. Even
Oh,
it's
that's
amazing.
now that you mentioned grass-fed burgers, that's really important. That when your people are choosing their proteins, if you know that we have people that all sorts of things, the vegetarians, vegans, paleo, and it's really finding what's right for your body. But if you're going to be eating protein, you want it to be as natural as possible, because your grass-fed means that the cows are eating hay and grass, which is natural to them. So that's their food giving the information to their body correctly, which means that when we eat the hamburgers or the meat from them, it's less inflammatory. They haven't been sick, which means they're not on hormones and antibiotics. So if we eat food that's pumped with hormones and antibiotics, it messes with our gut, which throws the gut balance off. So again, we're right back into that same old cycle.
Yeah, same with eggs. I always it always interests me when I see that the chickens were vegetarian fed, because my grandparents had farms and their chickens weren't vegetarians. They ate worms and bugs and things like that. So chickens are supposed to be outside eating bugs and stuff
Exactly.
like that.
Exactly. And the vegetarian fed can mean that they're just eating corn and soybeans.
Yep.
And that seems to be the default food of choice for all our farm raised animals. And it's inflammatory to them, which means then it's inflammatory to us.
Yeah, sometimes it's good if you can try to find a local farmer that has their chickens out in their lawn, and not their lawn necessarily, but outside.
And now that we're going into the summer months, and we'll see what happens with farmers markets, but if you can make contact with a farmer who may have eggs available that are the free range pastured kind of chickens, those are going to be the healthiest eggs.
So I am always talking to my clients not only about what they eat, but how they eat. So I talk about for a healthy digestive system. This cracks me up. So one of my friends, her kids when they were younger asked her one day, they said, "Mommy, I want to eat like an adult." And she said, "What do you mean? How does an adult eat?" And they said, "Standing up." Because I guess she was always doing things standing at the counter when she ate. So I always remind people, like, you should be eating sitting down. I don't want you watching TV or reading or looking at your phone. So really just focused on your food. We ideally don't want to eat when we're upset. And we want to chew our food thoroughly. So is that all just a bunch of acupuncture hocus pocus and nonsense, or?
Nope, I knew I liked you for a reason, Amy. 100% right. Because if we're relaxed, we chew our food well. Digestion starts in the mouth, not only with the saliva, which is digestive enzymes, but it's also by breaking it down with our teeth and chewing well, eating slowly to let your body start to do its work to break the food down more, to absorb the nutrients. All of that works better. The hormones in our body, when we're relaxed, it's more towards the rest and digest versus the cortisol being high, the fight or flight hormone. You do not want to be eating at that, it's saying you got to run, because cortisol really is fight or flight is like running from a lion, like a saber-toothed tiger. That's which a
Yeah.
lot of us feel like we're constantly in that mode because of our lifestyles today, that our cortisol is always high. So we don't break our food down as well, and we don't digest as well. So if we can sit and relax, I always tell people, if you can't even look out the window, look at nature, eat in nature. Eat outside when you can. So you're
Mhm.
absolutely right.
Um, and so another thing I see sometimes at the grocery store, hear people talk about is, I need a drink or two before I go to sleep. And having some alcohol helps me sleep. What are your thoughts around that? I know mine, but
Right. Well, so one of the things with the alcohol is, yes, it's a depressant. So it's going to kind of can calm people and quiet them down. The problem with the alcohol, a couple things. One is that it can spike your sugars. So you might be able to go to sleep, but are you going to wake up? So all of a sudden your sugars they crash maybe at 2 a.m. And so that can be a contributor to the people that feel they can't stay asleep. And that's something in general with alcohol you want to be really careful with, because it can spike your sugars. It also is hard on your liver. It's causing your body to not be able to detox as well, because it's now having to process the alcohol. And our sleep time is time for our body to recycle and to regrow and do all these good things to get rid of the waste and kind of it's regeneration, I would look at, actually. And that's something that the alcohol is actually making your body work harder and not able to detox the things that we typically need to do just by breathing every day and eating good food. I mean, another thing that people even do a lot, like if people are saying, well, I need my caffeine to stay awake, because there's a whole other issue with caffeine, that some people genetically process it very quickly and other people don't. So they know, well, I can't have coffee after 2 p.m. because I'd be up all night. So when you're looking at things for crutches, there's something much deeper going on.
yeah. Um, and another thing that comes up a lot of times is people won't believe that it's what I'm eating that is impacting my sleep, because I've always eaten this way. So they don't understand. I always try to describe it. It's like that movie, The Perfect Storm. Usually, most of our health issues by the time you get to be our age are a multiple of little bad choices that we made that all compile together.
Right.
There's not like one thing. There's not usually a magical thing like, oh, if you stop eating that one candy bar, you're going to be healed. It's usually a layer of things.
Absolutely. It's cumulative, everything that we do. And when you start, I always say, actually, it's in utero, so you can kind of blame your mom. But of what she was
Your
eating,
mom, it's all your fault. No,
it
my mom is on. It's actually, I sleep well, so I guess she did well.
you fixed everything to work for you. So it is a cumulative effect that our body works real hard to keep us in balance. And eventually, like any machine or equipment, it's going to start wearing out. And we can wear ourselves out sooner by not taking good care of ourselves. And that's what does start to happen. And sometimes we find that certain foods may have been always inflammatory for us, but we didn't know it. And then all of a sudden, I can't eat this one anymore. I can't eat that, but I can't eat blueberries, but they're good for me. I've been told they're good for me, but I realized I don't feel good when I eat them. And trying to identify which foods can possibly be contributing to some of the way you feel. I mean, even in terms of, a lot of people have issues with gluten. Gluten often causes people, it really can mess with the gut. And I know, me included, if I eat it, immediately I'm like, or not immediately, okay, within maybe 20 minutes, I'm really tired. I just want to go to sleep. I can't hold my eyes open. And that's a symptom and telling me it's not that I didn't get enough sleep last night. It's that I ate something and my body is reacting to it and telling me it's too much and I need to just really go to sleep and try to recover.
Yeah. Yep. That's a common one.
Mm-hmm.
So if I were to start changing what I eat, how quickly could I expect to see some differences in my sleep?
It depends where you are on the continuum of the standard American diet to real healthy, organic, clean eating, lots of vegetables with your protein and healthy fats diet. So, and it's also helping to find what for you as an individual might be triggers. But I have seen with a lot of people when they start cleaning up their diet, it can happen within a week. Sometimes it takes a little longer, depends how far their body is in, let's say, being inflamed or, an unhappy body is kind of,
Mhm.
but you can see it quickly. I've seen with some people, they'll say, I don't notice anything. And I start asking them questions and they may say, oh, yeah, I am sleeping better. And forgetting that that's a sign.
Yeah. So are there any questions that you guys want to ask Marcy while we have her on? Because this is a topic she could probably do a seminar on. We could talk all day, right?
Oh, I totally could. And I have so much fun talking about it because I'm so passionate about it.
What about, so I know you're also passionate about what we expose ourselves to. So part of digestion, like you talked about magnesium. And so one of the things I recommend for people is to do Epsom salt baths before bed because that helps get magnesium through the skin. That's an example where we're getting something good through our skin.
Right.
But what are the things we should be considering as far as our skin or our hair that impact our digestive system?
Well, you think about like your skin being your largest organ, that what you're putting on your skin. So if you're using a lot of chemical based or petroleum based products, you want to get rid of those because that's not something that would be natural to your body. Um, you want to look for really as clean products as possible. It's actually, I mean, everyone has their hair products they like, and some of them will say, oh, it's just, I'm not doing it every day, or it's not that much. But start with your skin and even the deodorants you're using to make sure that you're not clogging your pores. You want to make sure that there's not these artificial scents. There's so many wonderful essential oils. I know, Amy, you do a lot with essential oils, and those are wonderful to use to mix with even some type of a carrier oil to use for a lotion. And so I do look at personal care products a lot for people to bring their toxic load down, because if your body isn't having to work so hard to detox yourself, you'll sleep better. It all
Yeah.
comes, everything, you function better.
We're taking advantage of this time to not even wear deodorant. I've switched to native deodorant. I sell essential oils, as you know, but I don't think the deodorant is that good. But the native brand works for me better. But right now, I'm like, it's just my kids.
Well, and there's some that I found that I've gone through all sorts trying, and there are a couple that I think work really, really well that you don't stink. And that's what it's about. It's not about not sweating, because sweating is detoxing. So you want to let your body sweat, but you don't want to stink.
Yep. Yeah, and I love coconut oil instead of lotion, or we're trying to use as natural things as possible.
Yeah, exactly. Coconut oil, jojoba oil. You can even use extra virgin olive oil if you don't want, if you don't mind smelling like that. Avocado oil, almond oil. They're all out there that are really good.
Yeah, and I'll actually post in the link. I know a woman that I met at the Skokie Farmers Market who makes her own soaps, and they're fabulous. And she has some good lotions too, so I can share that with people.
Yeah, I have some sources if people are interested in that, and a lot of things you can order also that really. There's some products I also like. Not only are they good for us, but they're good for the environment. They're really trying to cut down on the amount of plastic they're using. So that's a nice kind of double combination of things.
Yeah, exactly. So, are there any key things we missed before I have you talk about where people can get a hold of you?
I think that's the bulk of this right now. There's just so much to talk about, and it's so important, especially with right now here we're having to shelter in place and people are worried about catching a virus. And what's really important is keeping your immune system strong, and keeping your gut healthy is going to be the foundation for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think I mentioned it in the beginning, but I wanted to point this out again. Marcy has worked with hundreds of different people, if not thousands, and so she knows it's not the changing your diet isn't simple, right? Most of us know what to do. It's figuring out what works for us that is challenging. And so Marcy has a lot of experience working with people and finding motivation or an approach that will fit with individual people, which I think is an important piece of this as well.
Yes, thanks, Amy, for mentioning that. It is one of those things where I like to meet my clients where they are, and I don't expect them to eat like me. I don't expect them to do something that they're not comfortable doing. It's helping them find the places that they can comfortably make those changes to and make them permanent, because it's not going on a diet to just lose weight, to just feel better for a little bit. It becomes a lifestyle change. And helping people do that is a challenge.
So how can people reach you?
So you can reach me through email, and that's marcy@enhancednutrition.net, and we can post that. And you can call me. You can, and to do that, Amy?
Pardon?
Do you want my phone number? Because that's...
We can put your website, and then people can find it that way as well, I think.
Those are the easiest ways. And in this environment right now, I am doing virtual sessions with people, and it's been actually better than I thought, because I can share my screen and show you visuals. And when there's test results that come in from some of the functional nutrition testing I've done, we can look at that together. And I do people ask me a lot, is it covered under insurance? And that is totally dependent on your insurance policy. Some insurance policies cover nutrition and some don't. But I do code for insurance, so your invoice is coded for that. And the virtual nutrition is coded that way also, because insurance companies are definitely know they have to keep their clientele happy. And that's what people need right now, because otherwise they don't get the help that they need.
Yeah. Yeah, I know a lot of doctors my doctor refers people to Marcy. So there's a lot of, you might need, for your insurance, you might need your doctor to write a referral. And that
I can't diagnose. That's out of my scope of practice. And I do ask people, if you want to send it into insurance, you do need a diagnosis code, and that's going to come from your doctor. And I explain to everyone how needs to be done. And doctors, I've never had a doctor say no. I don't want you to learn to eat better.
So if I were going to summarize, and I know it's challenging right now because of the stress, but really you're saying make sure we eat mainly whole foods, things that are natural, a variety of colors as much as possible. We didn't talk about water, but I'm sure, drinking plenty of water is on your list as well.
It's always one of the first things, actually, is I always say, drink more water. Most people are dehydrated, but drinking more water, you want to eat real food, whole, natural foods, lots of colors. Your proteins, you want them to be wild, pastured proteins, not too much protein. You want to focus mostly on your plants. Those are going to be healthier for you. That's what your body needs more of. But we need our proteins because we're not going to make our neurotransmitters without our proteins. And we want our healthy fats. We want the avocados, the nuts and seeds, the oils, all sorts of, don't be afraid of fat. And so many people are, but be afraid of unhealthy fats because those are just inflammatory. So if you can keep yourself with healthy fats, that's really important to get also. So you want to get that nice balance of your fats, your healthy carbs, and your proteins.
Yeah, and I talked about this in another video, but right now, when you feel like you need to eat something for comfort, that is a good time to choose some of those healthy fats that Marcy just mentioned instead of sugar or something that's unhealthy. Because a healthy fat, I know for me, like macadamia nuts can be a comfort food because it's got that buttery creaminess and it's healthy. It's doing something to help ease my anxiety instead of feeding it.
Correct. And that's a lot of different things that there's always kind of fun ways to make something that you feel that you're indulging, but it's a good indulgence.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much. Also, I actually didn't even tell Marcy this, but I've started to post these to YouTube as well, because sometimes it can be hard on Facebook to go back and find a video. And I was taking notes during this, and then I realized, I don't have to. I can go back to the video. But they will be on my YouTube channel, which is actually Amy Landau, not North Shore Acupuncture right now. So I will have it eventually there as well. And I have more of these sessions coming up. So on Saturday, Catherine Schrager is joining me to talk about creating your sleep sanctuary. On Monday, we are talking about, which one is Monday? Self-compassion. So self-compassion for sounder sleep. And on Tuesday, we're talking about yoga sleep, the power of nidra. So I talked a lot about yoga nidra. We're going to have an expert join and talk about that. And I also want to announce a new page I have, Perimenopausal in a Pandemic. So on Monday, there's going to be a facilitated discussion with Lisa Kaplan about how you renegotiate your relationships in the midst of a pandemic and perimenopause. So if you're interested in that, you can sign up for that under perimenopausalinapandemic.com, or you can look on my Facebook page and you'll find information about that there as well. That one won't be Facebook Live. It'll be a Zoom conversation so we can have more of a dialogue. So make sure you check into that. And then the last thing is right now, a few neighbors and I are getting together to just purchase like toilet paper, paper towels, soap, a few essentials for neighbors here who are shut in either because they have COVID-19 or they're one of those high risk groups and they have some food security issues. Kurtz has been providing them with meals. We just want to send some of those extras along with them so they don't have to use mismatched socks or other things for their toilet paper. So if you have the ability to donate even $5, that would be great. And we set up a website called evanstoncares.org, or you can reach out to me and get money to me that way. So those are my announcements, but thank you, Marcy, for joining us. Again, even if you're watching this later, just please post your questions and Marcy and I will watch this and try to get back to you with some answers. But make sure you follow Marcy at Enhanced Nutrition. She's got her Facebook page. And thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Everyone,
well.